Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We are buzzing as always, and I'm super pumped to have today's guest on the show. We have Rashid Ajami coming in hot from beautiful London, England, one of my favorite cities, easily top 3 city in the whole world. You gotta love that place. Rashid is the co-founder and CEO of Metropolis World, a metaverse experience and virtual landscape comprised of stunning art, a physi-digital marketplace, and an immersive itinerary of curated programming, perks, and events. Rashid is also an electronic music producer. Highly recommend checking out his tracks. I will include these in the show notes. I've been bumping them all week. And sound design artist based in London. He has released critically acclaimed tracks on renowned labels such as Anjunadeep, Get Physical, Noir, Tail and Tone, Tor, and Armada Electronic Elements. He's also collabed with electronic music heavyweights such as Booka and Julia Govor. Been remixed by the likes of Maya Jane Coles and Ramon Tapia. Also been supported by Pete Tong on BBC Radio 1. We've all heard the Pete Tong intro. You'll love that. As well as featuring in some of the world's biggest music titles such as Rolling Stone, Mixmag, DJ Mag, and Clash. Been a hot minute. We finally got him on. Rashid, welcome to the show, my friend.
Great to be here. Really happy to be here.
You live in London, man. How much of a treat is London? I love starting off by, getting to know the guest city. It's every time I go to London, it's such a magical place. The only thing I don't like is you guys don't get a lot of sun, which sometimes irks me a little, but every time I've been there, it is beyond world class. How sweet is it living in London, man?
It's amazing. I mean, I was born here, grew up here, and for me, London's a beautiful city. You have a lot happening, but then you have great parks, good nature as well in the middle of the city. So, it's definitely home. I definitely call it home.
And you must have DJ'd at some pretty sick clubs there as well.
Yeah, I mean, the scene here for music is one of the top scenes, I'd say. It's very intimate. You have these intimate clubs that people, they come there for the music. East London has a great vibe. So I actually spent a year in LA, which I loved for the weather. It was phenomenal. But I ultimately still ended up back in London. So it's definitely where my heart is at.
Before we get into crypto and Metropolis World, Rashid, I'd love to buzz on the music forefront for a little bit. How did you get into it? Me personally, I have next to no music fibers in my body. I love listening to music. I feel like in life, you're either blessed with athletic genes or musical genes. I got the athletic genes. I can't play any instruments to save my life. I've always wanted to. I've tried. I just don't have it. So I'm always, perhaps jealous is the wrong word, but I have such an appreciation for people like yourself who have this musical gene. Did you get in at a young age? Were your parents, putting you on to music lessons and all that? And then walk me through, how did you actually become a sweet DJ? And what was it like working with some of these massive labels and DJs in the space as well?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I did grow up playing piano and violin in the classical sense, and my parents forced me to do it at a young age. And I'll be honest, I didn't enjoy that. So it wasn't something that I was super passionate about, but it at least did give me some musical background. And at university, I was actually at Georgetown in Washington, D.C. There was a lot of great, parties happening, and people were starting to listen to deep house. And I just started creating music just out of the blue. I started with GarageBand and downloaded Logic and started playing and created a track called Rule the World with no musical experience in production, and actually ended up getting it remixed by Maya Jane Coles. I just sent it out to a few people. She picked it up, remixed it. And it's a very simple track. It's got limited, technical, it's not a technically good produced track, but it had some sense of vibe to it. And just having that confidence of Maya doing the remix was where my career basically started in university. And just from there, that gave me the confidence to keep pushing, keep learning, and grow the career.
Being a DJ at Georgetown Uni, that must have been an absolute treat and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, coming from London was one great thing. I mean, it's just, especially in the States, going to university there, being free, leaving home, and then just getting into the music scene in DC was really exciting. And it was really at the time when Deep House was becoming a thing. Before that, you had the big EDM element, Swedish House Mafia days, which I loved, and I actually really liked their music. It has this emotive feel to it. But for me, I was all about creating these more chilled vocal house tracks and just got really into it. I was very passionate about it, and was very lucky to start off on great labels like Anjunadeep, and having Maya kind of gave me the chops very early on when I really wasn't actually that experienced as a producer.
I love that. Who tickles your fancy right now? For me, I think I'm sure you've heard of Fred again. He's blown up. I love his tracks. It just gets me in some type of vibe. But I still think, and this is pretty cliche nowadays, but like Rufus is my top. Like Rufus the Soul, I feel like you can study to that. You can do research to that. You can run, go to the gym, chill on the beach. I feel like it's just perfect for everything. Who on this sort of electronic side gets you going right now?
Yeah, funny enough, I have to agree. Rufus is one of my favorites as well, because it's that melodic, easily accessible music. So yeah. I really rate them. And then Blondish I like a lot from a DJ perspective, because she has this very broad ability to play to different styles. And funny enough, I really like all genres. I also like hip hop. I love classical, even just because of having played it in the past. So I'm very open to a lot of different music. But unfortunately, with my currently doing Metropolis, I haven't been producing as much recently. That's the one downside.
Of course. And we'll get into that, how you and the team at Metropolis are going to tie in. Well, you've already tied in, but are going to continue to tie in that musical element. But with such a crazy musical background, why the jump to crypto? Why the jump to sort of the metaverse niche? And for those at home listening, like, you gotta check out the website, the NFTs. It's absolute bananas. It's just a crazy, vertical, futuristic world. The art is phenomenal. But before you get into Metropolis, like, why the jump from music to crypto?
So really, it was music that brought me to crypto and NFTs, because I was feeling frustrated with the music industry in the sense that unless you're like really heavily on the DJ circuit and touring, it's not easy to make money, really. You're in a position where if you're just purely producing, which I was getting to the stage where I was focused more on production, there was no way to really monetize that. Firstly, was the first thing I was looking at. And two, I'm interested in audio visual, and I saw NFTs, and it was this opportunity to create these audio visual pieces, and it just opened this whole thing of digital to me. And I actually launched something called Falling Through Eternity, which was short music clips with cool visuals, and then it unlocks even more music, and you start to have this ability to create a journey that you don't typically have doing the typical release on a label, which is a traditional way of releasing music.
And on the traditional music side as well, I've been fortunate enough to have a bunch of guests on similar to yourself who have pretty amazing experiences and resumes in the music industry. And it seems like there's a consensus that blockchain tech and NFTs will unlock so much more for the avid and diehard fan of artists. And I assume you're living in the same yacht as those people.
Yes, totally. Because I've noticed one of the key aspects of blockchain that I think works for music is this idea of fan base, loyalty, opening that up and having a better relationship from artist to listener. And it gives you a sense of kind of ownership of the music, especially if it's exclusive. If you launch an exclusive NFT, that you lose a little bit with today's typical streaming. 100%. Because the old day, you go to a vinyl store, you pick it up, it might be exclusive, no one else has it. Then it was CDs, and it was a fun experience of that purchase that is a bit lost in just streaming music on YouTube. Even though that's great, gives a lot of access. NFTs almost takes you back to owning a piece of music and cherishing it and having provenance around it.
It's crazy. It's pretty bananas how much the music industry has changed over the last even half decade, specifically with the prominence of social media. I'm not a big TikTok guy, but again, as a marketer and as someone with clients, I have to spend a short period of time every week on TikTok to know the new trends, to know the new songs. And there are so many artists that have blown up just from having one hook in one song go viral on TikTok. And another sort of caveat to that is the new trend of artists no longer creating, classic Stairway to Heaven. What is that, an 8-9 minute song? Now it's you create songs that are 2 minutes and 20 seconds long just so people stream the shit out of it. I find it absolute bananas.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny because it feels like it's getting shorter and shorter. Eventually, people will be making 10-second records. But I feel the same way. And it's in a way, I like that opportunity. It opens up, obviously, the ability for people to make it to make it big and get their voice out. I know a lot of young artists great talented artists that they struggle to get out there because they don't know the right gatekeepers in the music industry. So I think something like that on TikTok amplifies that, but then NFTs also amplifies that because you have this ability to have a new medium to release music and offer something different, which doesn't currently exist. So it's really exciting. I don't think music's fully formulated from the blockchain Web3 perspective. I think it's like the next thing that people are looking at. And I think it needs more mass adoption, just generally blockchain and Web3 for it to really take off. But I think there's definitely something in there from a music perspective.
So Rashid, let's say I want to start, I want to be a DJ. I'll call myself Matty Z on the decks, whatever. I start, making some deep house songs. Because if I were to start, I'd be doing some tropical house or some deep house, the kind of tracks that I like listening to. How would you recommend, if you were to give me just like a 1 to 2 minute primer, how would you recommend I utilize blockchain technology, NFTs, or perhaps even just traditional routes? Obviously, there's the basics like get on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Snapchat, Facebook Reels, do all the things that scale, the easier ways to blow up. But I guess speaking in the traditional Web2 social media platforms and using blockchain, NFTs, what would be your 2 minute primer to make a name for yourself as a new musician in the industry?
Totally. So I think on the traditional side, so if someone's trying to release music in a traditional way, I'd say from my experience, trying to get a recognized artist or more recognized artist, it doesn't have to be, Maya Jane Coles or Black Coffee, but someone who's already has a following to some degree to do an edit or a remix of your track is a really great way to immediately have a new audience. Because let's say you had a Maya Jane Coles do the remix, immediately her audience potentially becomes your audience and you can kind of grow from that. So I would look at that. I'd say, don't be precious of the music in the sense that let people edit it, let people rework it, get it out there through even other creators. On the blockchain side, I think the beauty there is that you can build in blockchain these small, very heavily engaged communities through Twitter. And because it's a small crew compared to the larger, worldwide listening audience, the people in Web3, it's a small community still. So if you're consistent in a small community, even if you build up 50 listeners, but they're going to follow everything you do and buy your NFTs and you can get them in a Discord, talk to them, get feedback. That's the first step, I think. And once you have 50, then it goes to 100, then 100 goes to 1,000. Before you know it, you're starting to get more opportunity. So I would take those two avenues at the same time if I was starting from scratch and trying to DJ, because it does help. I have to say, like getting some gig, let's say you're in Mexico, as you said, somewhere, like you go to the local place, play there consistently. People are going to be like, who's this guy? And it actually builds up over time.
And all it takes is like one influencer or one person in the audience with a big following, taking a quick TikTok video or Instagram video, posting to their story of you buzzing on the decks, and you're off to the races. It's pretty crazy. And just a caveat to your point as well, it's like, I want to say, I learned this on the Tim Ferriss podcast, but it's the rule of 1,000 true fans, where it's like, once you have 1,000 true fans who will purchase anything you put out, it's like if you put something out for, $50 a pop and you have 1,000 true fans who are going to pay for that $50 release, whether it's an NFT or anything else, it's like you can make a living off that. And getting 1,000 in today's day and age with social media, having a reach of half the world, about 4 billion people with internet connections, like it's not that difficult to do. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I've realized I'm a big believer now. That's the way to do it. You have to, you treat every single listener as the listener, as you give everyone that level of attention. I used to always just, anyone that commented on my SoundCloud, I'd respond, I'd give a personal message, because that's a listener right there that will listen to all your stuff, go on that journey with you. And I think we forget that sometimes when we see people with 1 million likes on their stuff. But the way to really build a true audience is to build the first core audience, your true people who really believe in you, back you. And it's the same in Web3. We're seeing that in Web3 of all these different communities. They're tiny communities who are doing a lot. as small groups of individuals.
They truly care. Well said, well said. Let's jump into Metropolis World. It is a crazy metaverse experience, the virtual landscape. You got the crazy art. You have the created programming, perks, events, you name it. What was sort of the aha moment or inception story of Metropolis World? When did you and your sis sort of decide, wow, we got to make this happen?
Totally. So I think for me, I started looking at NFTs on the music side, the one-of-one NFTs. So looking at known origins, super rare at the time when that was really kicking off. Then started looking at these larger collections, the PFP collections, jumping in the Discord, getting into the communities. And what I felt was missing was a depth to the worlds that they were building. You know, the kind of mythology behind some of these collections, the artwork. It was good, but there was room to do more and really develop something more. And my sister created something called Pips Island, which was an immersive experience in Times Square for kids, a bit like Sleep No More. I don't know if you remember Sleep No More was a big thing that people would go through it, and there's actors and you engage with them and you're in these sets, and it's like a real world immersive experience. And seeing she's been doing that for many years, world building for many years, I felt there was an opportunity to bring my music side, her world building experience, and create something that's really next level. So always from the beginning, it was like, let's create next level art. Like, forget generative, let's build a city that every single building is unique. And let's make sure that every building has a story, and it's a world as rich as Harry Potter. And so we went head deep of content first, it was all about, let's build the content, the partners. We had brought on board 75 founding citizens, people like Steve Aoki, Blondish, all the way to artists, to Young Gravy, all these cool individuals to contribute to the world. And we kind of went content, partnerships, IP first versus building a 3D world that's empty, that we felt, no one's there because there's nothing to do.
The art side of what you guys did is so intriguing to me. Like, how did you come up with that style? And how did you go about drawing each building by hand? Like, again, you can tell that this isn't computer generated because each plot of land / building, whatever you want to call it, each NFT is so different. Like, who was the art director? How did he or she or they come up with this? Like, walk me through that whole story.
Yeah, so my sister's chief creative officer, so she kind of handles the whole world building, the aesthetic, what we want to build. And we brought on board an artist called Raphael, and he had this talent of drawing very detailed properties and buildings and these landscapes. And we worked it was just, hour after hour, day after day, building each property, going back and forth. And we wanted to create a world that was realistic but fantastical at the same time. So, my sister took a lot of inspiration from Miyazaki, from, these fantastical worlds, but then grounding reality in it. That you've got, the drugstore and the arcade and real world places, the pizza shop, the kebab shop, but then done in this kind of fantastical way. So it's relatable, but then takes you into a world that you can get lost in, that has a magic to it. And it was really heavy work, that first city. I mean, it's truly non-generative. And we have a dream that one day you would just see it on a massive wall. We're all about physical experiences, and you could just spend hours looking at the details in a physical environment, like a real artwork.
That's, you literally just put my next question on an absolute platter for me, just a layup and a half. The physical aspect of Metropolis, crazy events, concerts, there's tying in AR and VR. How do you tie in the whole physical aspect? It's so difficult to do, to make people feel like they're actually there in a virtual world. What's the secret sauce to that? How do you work that magic and actually make it come to fruition?
So what we identified as the first stage of that, which we're launching pretty soon, is that we felt there's a huge opportunity with commerce and phygital items. So we're launching this avatar marketplace where essentially you can fully customize the avatar on chain. 1 week it can be wearing a Supreme t-shirt, then you can stick a cap on, and every item is its own NFT essentially. So you have a wardrobe of NFTs that you dress your avatar with. And we've gone and partnered with over 100 brands and partners. So Steve Aoki has his fashion line. Mike Shinoda has his fashion line. Christian Cohen, who's an up-and-coming great designer, has his line. And those tie back to physical items, the same physical items. So if you buy the virtual, you redeem the physical. And then we're going the other way around, where if you buy the physical at one of our pop-ups, we're launching pop-ups in New York, LA, and London, where you'll have events, you'll have DJ sets, you'll have art, music, coffee shop, community. But then, you buy the t-shirt in shop, you can then redeem the virtual version, and you teach people how to get into the metaverse, set up their wallets, join Metropolis World virtually from something they already understand, which is a really cool,
Right.
Piece of clothing. So we're doing both ways, and we think commerce is the first step because it's something that brands understand. It ties back to what they want, and the general consumers, Web 2 consumers understand it as well. So that's what we're betting on for the next 3 to 6 months.
So you guys are going all in on the whole e-commerce sort of Web3 collab.
Yeah, we're trying to build the supreme of the metaverse, so that it's like, because if let's take another metaverse. I don't want to insult any metaverse, but sandbox. Let's call it sandbox. Like, we don't think you're going to wait in line in New York Soho to buy a Sandbox X whoever t-shirt, Paris Hilton t-shirt, right? But Metropolis is something we want it to feel like the supreme of the metaverse. It needs to be a brand as well as a virtual world, and we're going to emphasize that through these beautiful pop-ups where you hang out, you meet people, there's community, it's digi-physical, it relates back to your real life. The products are high quality, they unlock exciting things. If you buy the Steve Aoki Metropolis t-shirt, maybe it unlocks an unreleased record, for example. So things that people can understand and that it's tangible, really. I think that's where we have to initially focus.
It's true. That tangible aspect is absolutely huge. Rashid, we got to take a quick break and give a massive shout out to our sponsor of the show. Big shout out to rStaking. This podcast is brought to you by rStaking, the decentralized staking platform, which creates its own liquidity pools. The liquidity pool of rStaking, the overall one, the big kahuna, is already worth more than 1 billion USD. There is a fixed 25% per year on more than 200 tokens and crypto coins in 9 different networks. Rewards get paid very quickly every 3 hours in Tether or BUSD tokens. Since 2019, rStaking is considered to be one of the most secured blockchain companies in the world, as the company created a standalone and secure project focused solely on staking. Speaking of stability, rStaking offers 25% per year with the possibility of self-closing and rewards every 3 hours in USDT or BUSD. Everyone and anyone can register with rStaking, receiving 10 RHIN tokens free of charge and open his or her first stake. rStaking is the platform where everyone will find a suitable token or crypto coin for themselves. Register now and start studying rStaking at rstaking.com. Again, that is rstaking.com, rstaking.com. Huge shout out to rStaking, our sponsor of the show. And now back to the show with Rashid. Rashid, one of the things that I love about Metropolis World is you guys continue to build in the bear market. Your socials are still buzzing. Discord is still buzzing. Everything is still buzzing. How do you and the team keep the community engaged in a bear market? It's not an easy thing to do. You guys still have folks who comment on every single post. You guys still have true fans. What's the secret sauce to building in the bear market?
I think for us, it was from the get-go, we really tried to build a community that were interested in the project as opposed to kind of speculating on the NFTs from a financial perspective. So we have this kind of fandom experience where we've seen our community expand on the lore, build up in terms of what we've built and, expand on that. And that for us, I think is the critical piece. So that, we have this really positive community that are in this for the long term and believe in the vision that we're creating. And I think that's really critical in this space. Because a lot of projects, they come with a lot of hype and, there's so much hype that's only really down from there. Versus our approach has been more systematic, like just build day by day, add value day by day, consistently just give more, learn, like a true startup, like any real world company, it's about iterating, building value consistently over time versus, having a big moment of hype and then you have to sustain that. And it can be difficult. So I think it's similar to what we talk about on the music side. It's just, people see the vision we have, we communicate that vision clearly, and we have very clear step-by-step goals that we try to achieve as a company to add value every day, every week, every month going forward.
Just kicking out the can. I love it. Another thing you guys do, I know I keep just going over all the good. Well, there's really not a lot of bad here, but there's no bad here. But all on the good side, building an immersive world without AR or VR. I know that this was potentially discussed on the roadmap and whatnot. You guys decided to gas it. I'm a huge fan of that. I've tried on the AR, the AR goggles, the VR goggles. I think AR, whether it's Apple, I think eyeglass they're calling it, or Apple glasses, whatever. I think that may have a chance with, Apple's track record in the hardware building space. But AR and VR specifically, it's just not cool right now. Like you put the headset on, you feel like it's just not there. Perhaps in a couple of years it will be. But I love how you guys are deciding to build this immersive world, focusing on tangible physical events and assets like you've discussed. But was it just an absolute no-brainer from the beginning to really not try to intertwine AR and VR while building an immersive world?
It's really been a realization that has come about over watching the market and seeing what's been happening with currently existing metaverses. And what we realize is that they still don't have the adoption to have that level of engagement that they should. So we're seeing that the adoption is not quite there. So what we're doing from the virtual side is building this concept of property hubs, where when you enter a property, it's almost like a virtual square space where you can do what you like. So let's say you have your space, you could invite some friends and play poker and then chat and have fun and engage with that. You could host a podcast. You could have an AMA. You could sell goods. If you're a brand, you could bring people in there and, ask for product feedback. So it's these interactive spaces that are 2D meets 3D with all these plugins that are more realistic that people can actually use. And these spaces, we see them as like an evolution of a social network. It's like you have your Instagram page, that's great for photos. You have TikTok, that's great for your video content. And then you've got your Metropolis World property, which is more about interaction. It's about, hosting an event, doing a concert, hanging out with friends, playing a game of poker, whatever it might be. So that's what we're trying to build, but we're going really slowly because we're trying to test it to the point that we know it's sticky. So we're testing, iterating till we have that product that then later can become, like Ready Player One level. And yes, maybe you go in with the VR and AR, but to build VR but not have the content, the community, the visuals, the partners, all the happening stuff doesn't make sense, because then you're just it's too gimmicky. Whereas with this approach, you're building all the recipe of what a happening city should have, and then you create the tools to experience that city off the back of that. And that's we've flipped the approach. And I think that's our biggest differentiator that I'm always telling people.
Another approach you guys took that's rare in the metaverse world is sans coin. No coin. I love that. Why no coin?
We felt that to do a coin, we need to reach a point where we have a larger audience and understand really what people are doing in the world and what they want out of Metropolis World, to create then that kind of governance that the coin allows you to do. Because the coin could be super cool in the sense you could vote for the mayor of the city. You could have a fine art board that choose what museum. You could have people who vote on who should DJ at Metropolis World's festival. It could be really epic. But to do that, the coin first, as much as it's financially could be very, it's people launch these coins, they make a ton of money. I think to have a successful coin and token, you need to do it off the back of an ecosystem that is already well-grounded and established.
Agreed.
So we're taking the long-term view.
Agreed. It just seems like everyone who builds a metaverse, it's just sort of par for the course. It's almost a parallel. You launch the metaverse and almost the coin at the same time or months later. It just seems like an opportunity for the creators to make a quick couple mil and pray to God that, the coin doesn't drop too much. So then it's an easy way to give your community a quick bump at the beginning. Often there's a quick little pump after the coin launches. If the team does a good enough marketing push and PR push, people who aren't part of the community will, try to make a quick buck and profit off said coin. But I feel like 99 times out of 100, the coin gets absolutely crushed. And then, your community who got some coins is now now hates you as well. It seems like this is a playbook that more metaverse builders should be cognizant of.
Totally. And what we have done is we created something called soft. So we have Clay, which is the on-chain token that we would eventually launch unless we change the name. But then we have soft Clay, which we look at it as the Avios of the metaverse. And the idea of that is it's a way to reward our holders with discounts in the e-commerce shop, for example. So if you do release that Metropolis World limited edition t-shirt, they can unlock the discount. They could get it for free. They could utilize this soft Clay as like your Avios points. And as we onboard brands, which is something we're focused heavily on, that becomes a really interesting concept. And it's proven concept. You look at how Avios works, you can earn it. So you could earn it through gaming in our world. I don't like the word play to earn because it's not play to earn per se, but it's like XP points. So you can gamify soft Clay. People who are active in your ecosystem can earn it and then unlock real world rewards. And that system, to us, is really interesting, at least as the prerequisite to an on-chain token.
Rashid, you keep bringing up the e-commerce aspect, and again, I have an e-commerce background. This is something that intrigues me so much. I've been fortunate enough to work with a couple of brands who have also kickstarted some Web3 e-commerce lines. I find the biggest pain point is the payment processing, especially when you're in the NFT space, or if you have a coin, whatever the case may be. There's really only a few payment providers in the space that will allow you to accept fiat, accept credit cards, heck, bank transfers. That's a whole nother world. If you can find a workaround there, you're a god. But how much of a headache has it been, building out the full tech stack that you guys have with obviously NFTs on OpenSea? Of course, you need some solidity. And then you have your website, which is extremely immersive, crazy high graphics, very high pixels. And then also tying in payment processors, allowing the consumers to pay in crypto and fiat, like walking through that whole process and how much of a nightmare that's absolutely been.
Yeah, completely. I mean, what's crazy about kind of blockchain is that once you release a smart contract, that's it. You can't edit it. It's not like when you build a product. But I mean, the countless hours I spent with my CTO just conceiving every possible scenario for the next 3 years of what a smart contract needs to do. Can they purchase with a credit card in store in our New York location and then redeem the good without a wallet? And how would that work? And this constant iteration around that. But in short, the vision is that when you buy even an NFT in our world, let's say you're buying an NFT t-shirt, you don't even know you're buying an NFT. That's the level we want it to be at, like Apple for the metaverse, the Apple Pay style. The way we're trying to do that is through one, allowing you to utilize a credit card. And that's great in terms of, yes, if you have a wallet, but also just using a credit card, not needing a wallet, having it held in a wallet that we hold for you until you're ready to claim it into your own wallet. So that would allow you then to still have access through just traditional sign up, sign in with Twitter or sign in with email. You see all your assets in your profile on Metropolis. And that's great. You don't actually ever need a wallet until you really decide, I want to move my assets elsewhere because now I'm getting into crypto. I don't want it to just be here in this more centralized wallet. I'd like to move this off to whatever I want to move it off to. So for us, the goal is to make it that you can do this in any possible way. It is a challenge, but I think we're as good as we could get with what's currently available to do that. There are some good technologies that allow you to have that level of ease. And I'm lucky to have a CTO that's pretty much, he's like, yes. He says yes to a lot of my ridiculous ideas, which is very rare from CTOs.
You brought up a point where you and I are so in the same yacht, and that is building Web3 tools, services, applications, products that feel, act, and look like Web2 products, tools, services, and applications. I feel like that might be the number one catalyst for success and mass adoption is to build Web3 things that feel like Web2 things.
Completely, because that's where, for me, user experience, quality, the content quality, I still don't think it's caught up in Web3. And I feel that's where we have this kind of ability to change that. So that's where we're putting a lot of energy. And I think the only way for mass adoption is you have to create that bridge. And that bridge has to be almost not noticeable by the consumer. It just has to happen. And if whoever achieves that, and I hope it's us that achieves that, will really be able to, I think, mass adopt. And we're seeing that with the brands we speak to, because when we show them, like, for example, the avatar marketplace, it's tangible to them. They're like, I get this. This plugs into my current e-commerce system. I can see why this is of value to my brand. And so then we end up with this ecosystem where you bring brands, consumers together, you reward your holders by giving them discounts, early access, and then you promote that to both the brand's audience, your audience, and that really is a kind of sustainable growth that we see as the way that this kind of paves out in the next year to 2 years.
Rashid, you have been absolutely on fire, dropping knowledge bombs left, right, and center. There was one more part to the show, and that is the hot take factory, my friend. We got to let our listeners get a couple Rashid hot takes that only you believe in, whereas most other people do not. Doesn't have to be crypto, fintech, or blockchain related. Can be health, wealth, happiness, politics, some crazy shit, AI, space, VR, you name it. But give me a couple Rashid hot takes that only you believe in, whereas most other people do not.
Totally. I think, okay, on a well-being kind of spiritual level, I really believe in if you stay fully present, like surrender to what's happening, you actually end up getting to where you want to get versus trying to force things. So a lot of people are about very much doing. I believe in almost flowing with the universe. So I don't know if that's a spiritual take. It's a well-being take. From a blockchain perspective, maybe this is not as wild, but everyone's all about blockchain gaming, saying games is like the next big thing. I believe it's e-commerce is the next big thing that's going to come out more quickly because it's tangible. I think there'll be a greater adoption there. Not so crazy, but just, something that I'm seeing in the market from a crypto perspective. And yeah, those two things that I go by from a business perspective and just a personal how I run things.
I love the e-commerce point. Very rare. Heck, we're 210 episodes in, and I want to say you might be the first person to have that take. So I love that. I'm going to do some more research on that point as well, because after doing research for you in Metropolis, the whole e-commerce and crypto / blockchain synergy has truly been really interesting. Rashid, one last thing that you and I talked about, and just for the listeners that you guys never get to hear, I always ask my guest as a sound check once we go live, what they had for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, depending on where they are in the world. I'm on the East Coast. Most of my guests are ahead of me. And I asked Rashid twice now what he's had to eat, and he's a faster like myself. So perhaps that could be a hot take as well.
Yeah.
Any tidbits to the folks out there who want to fast? And maybe I'd love if you could just speak to like that superpower you get from, that hour sort of 16 to 20 mark.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it started just because I used to have so many meetings and just jump into my day and I would forget to eat. But then I realized that you end up having this very strong energy that kicks in if you do it regularly, where you feel this clarity, you feel energized. I do drink coffee, so I admit to that. I do like caffeine a few times in the day, but I found that it's a great thing to do at least 3 times a week. You fast till 6 p.m. It kind of gives your body a break from food. You feel energized. So, but I just kind of stumbled upon it accidentally. I didn't really make the point to start it, but it's really been something that works for me. I mean, you can see me now at 6 p.m. and I'm pumped. I'm still feeling great and I haven't even eaten today.
He's an energizer bunny. I heard something years ago when I started fasting. I want to say 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I don't know if it's true. I should probably, I tell it to people all the time, and this is so cowardice of me, but, and hypocritical of me, but I once read or heard from someone that if there's a cheetah in the wild and it attacks a beautiful big zebra and the cheetah family goes to town on the zebra, they're full, and then you airdrop a crate of filet mignons, perfectly seasoned, whatever, the cheetahs will not eat it because they're full and they understand that your body's a temple and you should eat good food, a solid amount of good food at one time and then give it a break. And on the flip side, if you do that in front of a pack of domesticated dogs, golden retriever, lab, wiener dog, whatever the case may be, they are going to eat until they puke, right? So it's like, what kind of animal do you want to be? Again, I don't know if that's true. I've never seen the experience firsthand. I'd love to actually airdrop some filet mignons to some cheetahs after they've eaten a zebra or whatever animal they've eaten, but that's something that always sort of sticks to my head.
Well, they funny enough, they once asked the woman that's the oldest person in the world, what's your secret? And she said, eat as little as possible. That was what she said.
Crazy. Oh, love that. Rashid, what a treat, man. This was truly so much fun. I learned a ton from you, and I'm very proud of you and the team at Metropolis World. You got an open invite on for round 2. Can't wait to have you on. But before then, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you personally and Metropolis World online and on socials?
Totally. So I'm on all socials at Rashid Ajami, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. Same with Metropolis World, at Metropolis World. And it's definitely worth checking out our site, which is metropolisworld.io, for a first experience of what we're building and if you want to learn more about the company.
Crazy site. Do go check it out. Rashid, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it, and can't wait for round 2.
Thanks, Matt.
Folks, what an episode with Rashid Ajami from Metropolis World, dropping knowledge bombs left, right, and center. We love to see that. And a great little part about something I'm very passionate on, fasting at the end. Do give that a try, folks. It is truly a superpower. Not only does it make you a little fitter and makes your brain buzz on all cylinders, but you even get to save a little bit of money too. You're not eating 3 times a day. Highly recommend checking that out. Big shout out to Rashid and the team at Metropolis. Guys, if you enjoyed this one, and I hope you did, please do subscribe. It would mean the world. To my team, love you guys. Eustace, you're the man. Appreciate everything you do for the pod. And to the listeners, love you guys. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Bye for now, and we'll talk soon.